Looking at the front entry to a reproduction of the fort at Jamestown. The actual fort was about a mile to the north on the island. Tobacco. After a few years of struggling and trying to figure out just how to make a profit from this colony. Mining didn't work, wine didn't work, glassmaking didn't work. They settled on tobacco, and Jamestown was thriving after about 1611. Looking at a swampy area just outside the palisade of the Jamestown settlement. Is it any surprise these people died in droves? Malaria, various other diseases that thrive in a marshland like this. And the water would turn brackish on the high tides, poison their wells. Nasty, nasty place to set up shop. Notice nobody lives here now. Nobody has for a long time. See the palisade and the moat outside of the fort. Here we are at the original site of Jamestown. This is where the fort actually stood. This is a reproduction, though it is actually where the walls were. We're about a mile away from all of the reproduced, replicated stuff. This is the James River. This is the site they chose to first build the fortification. This is where the first English settlers, at least the first successful English settlers, set down roots. Inside a reproduction of the fort at Jamestown, circa 1610, 11,
1610 to about 1614,
something like that. So this would be just after about the time tobacco saved the colony economically.
Profit in 1614.
Mm-hmm.
Start growing it in 1610.
All right. Quick pan around the perimeter here. Still mostly men here, very few women. Starving times are over. You can see in the meeting house or the church building the construction of the building. Mud and sticks and timbers and whatnot. Inside the meeting house, Anglican church building. One of the earlier buildings, no separation of church and state here. Thatched roof of the governor's house. Governor of Delaware was the first governor of the Virginia colony. Typical construction. This is a barracks with 2 beds on the bottom, 2 up on the top.
Alright, here we go.
Is it wound?
Yep.
Yes, I wound it.
Let's step inside. Inside the barracks. One of the bays where 2 men might sleep. The bedroom we just came out of through that door into a sort of a great room where all the men might eat, a fire they could gather around.
They go a moment's notice.
Inside the armory.
Extra armor and weapons may have been kept. Now, folks over there are examining some quilted armor. Some people have suggested maybe that was worn under the coat, but that's armor by itself. Sword or whatever. Now, this I didn't say you pull it.
Cloth armor actually has stumps and arrows. Captain John Smith statue here in the roughly in the center of the fortification at Jamestown. This church, just outside the fortification at Jamestown, been erected and re-erected several times, but it sits on the very place where an earlier rendition of this church building held the very first representative assembly to meet in North America. It would become the House of Burgesses. This assembly still meets today. Now this is a big tree. I don't know if it's 400 years old, but it might have been here at the time of historic Jamestown. Just outside the fort that you see in the distance. Dugout canoe in service. There's a dugout canoe in process. What the Powhatan tribe or some other tribe might do is build a fire, and then after it burned where they wanted it to burn, they'd put the fire out with water or sand or what have you, and then scrape out the charred wood with a shell, it's like an oyster shell. Anywhere you didn't want the fire to burn, if it was getting too close to the edges, you'd pack in clay. So you'd have a whole gang of people here. Down here, maybe they're scraping out what an earlier fire had done, and then up front they're starting another fire, and up here they're doing something else, and eventually, over a period of days, you'd have a dugout canoe. It could last a good 30, maybe even 40 years, maintenance free. You can see that there's quite a dig going on here, just outside and inside the fortification. It's quite deep as well. Who knows what treasures they're finding down there.